The Banshee. I live in a small town in rural Appalachia. The entire area was heavily settled by Irish immigrants over 150 years ago. They brought along their traditions, superstitions, and folklore, and well, a few other things followed along as well. As a child, me and the neighbor boy Mike used to go down and play in the creek together. It was our favorite pastime. We would catch minnows and crawdads, build little dams with rocks and mud, and swim in some of the deeper pools. We used to spend every summer like this, that is, until the summer we both turned 12. It was a hot June day, and we had been swimming in a deep pool that lies a couple miles downstream from our houses. When it turned evening time, we started the long walk back. We were in deep conversation when we came around a bend in the creek, and sitting there on a boulder beside the water was a small, beautiful woman. She was wearing an emerald green dress covered by a gray cloak. Her hair was incredibly long, and she was brushing it with a silver brush. We both froze and stared. We knew everyone who lived along the creek, and neither one of us had seen her before. Her beauty was stunning. After a minute or two, but what seemed like an eternity, she looked up at us. Her appearance immediately changed. Soft and smooth white skin seemed to melt into gray, lumpy clay. Her beautiful face now looked more like a half-rotted corpse, and her long, luscious hair fell off in clumps. And then this dead thing began to wail the most blood-curdling and awful sound that I have ever heard. We took off running and ran all the way to my Mike's house. When we arrived, we found his mother sobbing uncontrollably, and she looked pale as a ghost. She informed us that Mike's father, a mechanic by trade, had been working under a car when one of the jack stands had given away. His head was crushed, and he died instantly. Mike and his mother moved away a few months after that. I haven't seen him or talked to him since then, though I often think back on this day. Mike's family's name was O'Brien, and mine is O'Neill. As an adult, I've started doing a lot of research on my Irish family heritage, and I happened to come across old legends of the Banshee. It is said that each of the original families of Ireland had their own Banshee, a form of the Fae that would herald the death of a family member, with her awful wailing or keening. And then yesterday, as I sat on my back porch, sipping on my whiskey, I heard the most blood-curdling and awful sound that I've heard once before. Banshee. "Dad, what's a banshee?" asked Tom. His father was startled at this sudden question. "Why do you ask, son?" "Nothing. I just heard that on TV today," Tom replied. "Well, son," said his father, "in Irish mythology, a banshee is a spirit that starts to wail when someone is about to die. It's seen as a bad omen." Tom became very serene upon hearing this. "Do they actually exist?" he asked. "Of course not, son. It's only a myth," his father replied. Upstairs, 6-month-old Julia woke up from her sleep and began crying. "Honey, could you go check on Julia? I think she needs her diaper changed," Tom's mother said. Tom's father stood up and started going up the stairs. He collapsed midway, clutching on his chest. He was dead. in an instant. The Banshee in the Woods. When I was in 6th grade, I lived in a small town in northern Iowa. There was one little forested area just outside of town. My friends and I all lived in a trailer park that was attached to the forest. We decided to go into the woods one night and F around. We were in there for around 4 hours when it happened. We were in the dead center of the woods, not having a care in the world. We were just standing and talking at this point. I heard footsteps and crushing leaves behind me, so I turned around and saw a figure standing there, just staring at me. My friends asked me what I was looking at because they didn't see what I saw. I told them that there was someone there. Then I realized that it didn't want to be seen. That is why I was the only one who saw it. It ran away when it noticed me stare back at it. My friends heard the footsteps retreating from the area. We had decided to quietly and slowly walk out of the woods without encountering anything else that could be potentially dangerous. That did not save us from the terrifying sound that emanated from the general area that it ran toward. It was a loud shrieking sound that closely resembled that of a hand move up and down the strings of a piano, but it had rusty and chorus sounds added to it. We got the hell out of there as fast as we possibly could. We all decided not to stop and talk. We just kept on running to our own trailers. We never spoke of it after it occurred. I'm really good at finding banshees. I'm really good at finding banshees, and I am finding them all over the place. I am obsessed with banshees, and they're screaming when someone is about to die. I know what banshees tend to look like, which is usually an elderly woman in white clothing. I remember seeing an elderly-looking woman in white clothing, and I ran up to her with a knife in my hand. The knife was for my own protection. Then, to my pleasing, this elderly-looking woman was actually a banshee, and she started screaming. She screamed so loud, and I asked her who was about to die. This elderly woman just ran off, and I was so pleased to have found an actual banshee. I was determined to find another one again. To my surprise, it wasn't long till another banshee. She was another elderly-looking woman in white clothing. I got my knife ready for protection. I sprinted up to her and grabbed her, and she screamed so loud. I had found another banshee, and I tried getting answers out of her, like who was going to die. But she kept on screaming. She ran off as well, and I couldn't believe that I had found a banshee. It's absolutely fantastic. Then I found a hive of banshees in one building, and there were so many old-looking women in white clothing. I went in there with a knife in my hand, and they started screaming. I couldn't believe I had found so many banshees at the same time. The old-looking men were also screaming. I never knew banshees could be men, and learning this new information was highly riveting. I love searching for banshees, and I can't believe how easy they are to find. I want to leave my job and become a full-time banshee finder. I was thinking of documenting each one that I find, so people know what to look out for. Then one night, I heard a scream, and it was definitely the scream of a banshee. There was an old woman screaming, and this banshee was screaming because death had found a man, being shot to death. So then, that incident gave me a new idea to find banshees. With my knife, I started attacking people, and the screams came instantly from all over the place. I came to find out that banshees were in all shapes and sizes. Some banshees were children, some were men, some were even animals. I'm getting overwhelmed with all this banshee stuff. Then a thought came over me. What if they are just normal people, screaming out of fear? I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel. Your generosity means the world to me. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness or Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank you all for your support, your kindness, and your encouragement. I appreciate it so very much. Until next time.